They asked me what I wanted to talk about, and I said leadership through legacy. And it's really funny because everybody wants to know the secrets of Leigh Steinberg, right? 8 first picks in the draft. I actually get hired as a consultant from sports agencies to help figure out how to be a sports agent or a sports agency. And they're amazed because it doesn't take me very long to teach them how to have a great agency, but it amazes me as well that nobody listens. So I feel like I'm at home with my teenage daughters. But legacy through leadership, Leigh had this secret sauce. And when I met him, I asked him, so what exactly, how do you do it? Like Troy Aikman, Steve Young, Warren Moon, Sabathia Ramirez, Eric Karras. How did you do it? He goes, it's simple. He goes, I qualify all my athletes by one thing. I tell them if I'm going to represent them, that they need to give back. They need to create a foundation about something that they're passionate about. And if they do that, I know they're going to be a success. I know they may not be a success all the time on the field, but if they can build that relationship with their community, that I have something that I can brand, I have a profile that I can brand, and most of all, I'm doing what I truly want to do, which is create change. And so he started telling me about these athletes, and the first one we had was Warrick Dunn. And Warrick Dunn played for Atlanta, great running back, but not a Hall of Famer. But what Warrick Dunn has done that was so tremendous is he had a single mom that couldn't afford a home for him. And so when he started making his money, he created a foundation to give single moms down payments for homes. And in fact, we saw this year Deshaun Watson, who actually received one of those homes and win the Heisman Trophy, and to everyone's chagrin is probably the best rookie quarterback, which Warren predicted. And the second athlete was one that I represented, was Chris Arreola, championship fighter, got his butt kicked by Klitschko in a championship fight in Staples. But Chris was great because he was really resistant to creating a foundation. And I asked him, Chris, well, what are you passionate about? And he really, like a normal boxer, wasn't getting it. And so I said, Chris, tell me about your childhood. And he talked about the hardest thing in his childhood was his mom couldn't afford shoes, so he had to put cardboard in the bottom of his shoes because the shoes had holes because he was running so much and boxing so much. And so I said, well, let's just create a foundation to give kids shoes. And that actually, Chris, may not be a household name, but has changed his life. And then finally, Warren Moon, 27 years ago, created the Crescent Moon Foundation, which gives scholarships to high school kids to go to college based off of their community give back, not their grades, not anything else, just the fact that they're at risk and they give to others. And I've been a part of this now for almost 10 years. I'm on the board. I love it. But I was speaking in New York, and one of the best things that ever happened to me, this young woman came up to me afterwards, which is not the best thing that ever happened to me. My wife's not here. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. But she came up and she said, Mr. Meltzer, are you really Warren Moon's partner? And I said, yeah, a little bit worried. And she goes, well, I got to tell you a story. Warren gave me a scholarship to college. And I went to Georgetown University. And without Warren Moon, I could not have gone to college. I said, wow, can I have your name? He said, but whoa, more. She said, I've graduated college and I started my own company. And last week, I sold my company for $100 million. So she was crying, and I get choked up. But I was like, wow. I go, that's amazing. And she said, I go, so what are you doing now? She said, well, I started a foundation to give scholarships to kids to go to college. So that's leadership through legacy. Now, when I look at legacy, I think to myself, who has the most impact in my life? And I look at 4 things. The first thing is my personal values. Who had the most impact on my personal values? And I close my eyes and I think of who that hero is, who that legacy person is, because that's what I dream about to live forever, is that somebody will think about strong personal values and think, I hope not, but me. But that's a legacy to leave. That's leading through legacy. And when I shut my eyes, I think of Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. It inspired me to write my first book. It actually is the philosophy of my entire life. His personal values of being able to not only take strategic and disciplined action, but to believe in what you do, and you can achieve anything that you believe. And me standing here in this locker room is proof of that. The second one was my experiential values. And so I close my eyes and I think to myself, who's had those experiences that impact me the most? And I think about someone who's recently passed away, Dr. Wayne Dyer. When I was lost and living my life with my ego far in my way, I had the need to be right, which is amazing I stayed married. I had the need to be offended. I had the need to be superior, inferior, and separate. And Wayne Dyer, as I listened and read him all the time, his experiences taught me to get out of my own way. He taught me to think about things in a different way. In fact, he always said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I started seeing the experiential power of perspective. I realized that I controlled my own life, that I was with Marcellus Wiley, and he said, Dave, you be you. There's 7 billion people out there, and you run your frequency and allow all those people that are at the same frequency be attracted to you. Don't worry about everybody else, because everybody else will tell you what you can't do. And if you have the right perspective, it makes your past unbelievable, your present even better, and your future even brighter. And so when I close my eyes, I think of Wayne Dyer. Now the third one was one of the most important values that I looked at when I'm a leader through legacy, and that's giving, my giving values. And giving values are really easy. Who here likes to give? Yeah, it's amazing when I ask that. Everyone's, yeah, I love to give. It's so funny because we spend so much time worried about receiving, and yet we all love to give. Well, when I close my eyes and I think about giving, I think about a person who's still here, who's my mentor, which is Cynthia Kersey. Cynthia Kersey, when she was my age, so she looks younger than me, so when you see her, she's actually older, sorry. But on her 50th birthday, Cynthia decided that she was going to make a change. And she created a party to help raise money for children in Africa. There's a terrible, they don't have water, they don't have education, they don't have financial literacy, there's all of these difficulties, and she just threw a party and said, hey, for my 50th birthday, donate money. Donate money. And here we are 10 years later, and she has educated 31,000 students around the world, mostly women. Mostly women. Think about the impact, if you want to give, of educating 31,000 women that never would have been educated before. That's a huge impact. That's leading through legacy. And it started with one simple party. And it means so much to me when I look at someone like that, that they have the courage to not take a salary, to give back for 10 years and change literally an entire civilization, because those 31,000 people now are empowered to do so much more. And so I actually want to thank Cynthia. She's here. Stand up for 1 second. You're my hero of giving, wherever you are. There she is in the corner. I love you. Now I saved the last one, which is our receiving values. If you want to build a legacy through leadership, you have to know how to receive. Who here loves to receive? You see that? Only about half of us raised our hand, and the other half, it's tentative, right? There's some sort of resistant energy, like receiving is so bad. It's interesting because I would always tell someone as I business coach them, your problem is you don't think you're enough and you're afraid to receive. You don't think you're worthy of what you have. What changed that for me, because I had that problem, was I started thinking the more that I receive, the more that I can give. I started changing and shifting my energy about receiving and realizing that receiving was just as important as giving. The problem that I had was that most of my life, I thought, gosh, if I had to bankrupt my personal values, would I bankrupt those? My ethics, my character, my legacy? No way. If I had to bankrupt my experiential values, blank my slate of all the experiences, education, people I've met, mentorship, mistakes that I've made, would I bankrupt that? No way. Would I bankrupt my giving values, my brand, my legacy, all the people I've assisted and helped in my life? Would I bankrupt that? No way. Would I bankrupt my financial values? Would I bankrupt everything I had? Now, unintentionally, I did. But the irony of my life was 99% of my entire life was spent worrying about what I was going to receive. And number one, I had a problem receiving. And two, it was the only thing that I still am willing to bankrupt. But we spend 99% of our time focusing on receiving, yet we're afraid or we don't know how to receive. And it's so important to understand that. When I turned 30 years old, I was a millionaire. I never had to work again. And I had this great entrepreneurial father who never really was good. I don't talk about him much, but my mom's not here this time, so I could talk about him. But my dad was a true entrepreneur. Retired when he was 30, bought horses, raced, trained, owned harness horses. No, he wasn't a jockey. I'm not that small. But no, seriously, my dad was a super entrepreneur, and he lived like ever he wanted, and it wasn't so good for marriage, obviously. He was a gambler. But on my 30th birthday, my dad gave me a present, and I was really excited, right? I was 30 years old. My dad he had a thing about birthdays. I don't believe in birthdays. That's what he used to tell me. And he looked at me, probably the best advice he ever gave. He said, Dave, I want you to hang this jacket, not wear it. I'm like, you just gave me this cool jacket, I can't wear it. He goes, no, I want you to hang it in your closet, and every day I want you to look at it to remind yourself you can't take anything with you. You work so hard for money all the time. You're focused. You have this beautiful family, you have this great house, all these people in the community, and all you give a shit about is making money and receiving. Look at that jacket and change your life. Now, no more than 5 years later, I lost everything. I lost everything I had. I worked really hard to gain it. I came from nothing, but that jacket was there. And I looked at it, sorry, and I still have it, because my dad passed away this year. And people always say, sorry, you don't talk about your dad that much, right? I'll tell you why. Because he was mean. He was, right? He had his ego out of control, and it hurts to talk about him normally. But we learn from all sides of our parents, the best and the worst parts of them. Some of the greatest people that I know who mentor me have mommy and daddy issues far beyond mine, but they motivate us. They motivate us. And one of the things I learned from him, besides what not to do as a father, was that money doesn't buy happiness. That my financial values, my receiving values have to change. And so I shifted my paradigm in life to look at those 4 values and create a legacy that would carry on. I have these great mentors that I think about, like Napoleon Hill and Wayne Dyer and Cynthia Kersey and even my dad. And I think to myself, if I can be like them, if I can accumulate all that they've taught me, I may be able to pass on that happiness that I have in my life, the ability to have everything that I want. And it's so powerful. And what I'd like to do is if everybody could stand up for 1 second. It's good to exercise after you eat. Thank you very much, Newport Beach Rib Company. It was amazing. Just what I didn't need after the Dodger game last night. Give them a big round of applause. So I want you to start practicing something right now. If everyone could just close their eyes for 1 second. I want you to think about the one person, past or present, that had the most impact on your life. On your either personal values, your experiential values, your giving values, your receiving values. I want you to think about that leader that created a legacy that still lives on even when you close your eyes. That one person that has impacted you so much. I want you to think about everything that they did for you, and I want you to give them a big round of applause. Everybody give them a big round of applause, whoever that person is. Now, when you think of that person, I want you to just do one more thing. I want you to take that hero of yours and live your life like them. You've created your own future. You've created your own destiny. You've created your own legacy. It's right there in your mind every day. That one person, just think about when things get tough or things are too good or you just are questioning your existence or you're feeling down or feeling low, I close my eyes and think of that one person, and I want to be my own hero. And it's easy. The problem is we don't take one deep breath every day just to be that person. You've already been given the gift by that legacy. You are already a leader. It sits within you. Just follow that dream. Be your own hero. I appreciate everyone's time. Be a leader through legacy. Thank you so much.